learned that it's not always easy to learn something new, and I had to think back to when I was in middle school. Our gym class did roller skating. Any of you do that in school? Okay, some of you did it in like preschool, but here's the deal. I had friends that they could skate backwards, they could do all these tricks. Mine was more like just trying to move around the gym and not fall on my butt too many times. It was hard, so it was hard to learn something new. And whether you're meeting somebody new and learning something new, one approach is just to quit trying, right? I'm never going to get this right, I give up. That's why if you take me to a roller skating rink today, I still can't skate. I didn't even try. I was like, this is dumb, this is done, I'm over it, I can't do it. But for some people, you start asking questions, right? Like, what's my feet supposed to do? If I want to get to know a new friend, what kind of questions do I ask to get to know them? If I'm going somewhere, what's going to be expected of me there? Some of you, how many of you, this is the person, you wait in a group or in class for somebody else to ask the question so you don't have to ask it yourself? How many, a little honesty this morning? Yeah. Some of you, it's hard to raise your hand because you never raise your hand. Let somebody else do that, all right? So here's the deal. Sometimes you feel like that in church too. Like you start thinking that everybody here should know what's going on, and so in church you feel less like you're growing in faith and more like you're not sure about faith because you have questions. And you've got to understand that that's okay. That's also your first clue for a fill in the blank there for your handout. You're going to have questions because some of you are like, hey, I was reading the Bible about talking donkeys and this snake that does some talking, and then there's people that are sick and they get healed, and there are people who die and come back to life, and that doesn't seem very logical. None of that seems like normal stuff that happens in our world today, so I don't know what's going on there. Or maybe you come into the situation, you're like, if I ask questions, I'm going to look bad. Like these small group leaders, they've been going to church their whole life since they were born. They were actually born in a church. And so I don't if I ask a question, I'm going to look bad in front of them. You might be surprised to know how recently some of our small group leaders have become Christians. You might be surprised to know the other members in your group and you learn by asking questions and growing. And some of you are like, I don't want to ask a dumb question. Okay, this is middle school. There are some dumb questions. But when it comes to your faith, there's no dumb questions, right? When you want to know more about God and His Word, here's the deal. I looked it up. I spent a whole Bible study going through and highlighting every question Jesus asked and how He responded to everybody who asked Him a question. And here's what I found. I found a pattern. If it was somebody trying to trick and trap Jesus and get Him in trouble by what He was saying, then He responded with a story or a question or ignored them. But if it was someone who genuinely wanted to know God better and had a question about faith, He took the time to explain things to them every single time. So don't feel like you've got a dumb question when it comes to God. He wants to get you to know you better. He wants you to get to know Him so you can ask those questions. And some of you don't know who to ask. You're used to hey Siri, hey Alexa, hey Google. And it's there are dumb answers, and those devices will give you dumb answers. If you go to Google when you have Bible questions, anybody can post something on the website, right? You need to know who to ask. Hopefully that's your parents. You've got small group leaders that their job is to teach you in here, and they would love to answer some of your questions. I'm a youth pastor. My job is to help answer your questions. Think about who you're asking. If you don't already have your own Bible, over on the wall we have these little guides to getting to know Jesus better, and inside there are my 3 favorite Bibles for middle school students. They're my favorites because they have a lot of good notes to help you understand what you're reading and studying. That's where you should go when you have questions. Go to people you trust and go to resources you trust. And a little encouragement, a little footnote for you, you're not the only one with questions. You're not the only one trying to figure these things out. You're not the only one who's ever wondered that before. You're not alone with your questions. In fact, Jesus was asked a lot of questions, and one of his followers, Mark, recorded one conversation that Jesus had, and in chapter 12, verse 30, they were asking Jesus about following God and honoring God, and he said, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. If you have questions and you want to get answers, you're loving God with your mind. That's the way you actually show God how much you love Him. So learning about God is a way to connect with God. Think about it. You probably have a friend that you've known maybe since preschool, maybe since first grade or something, and the more you've known them, the more you've gotten to know about them, and that's made you closer together, even the weird stuff you learn about them. It's the same thing with God. The more you learn about Him, the closer you'll be to Him as you realize what an amazing God that He is. In John 8:32, Jesus said, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Sometimes we have these feelings of guilt or feelings of uncertainty and feelings that maybe God doesn't care. Feelings can be wrong. The truth, and the more we get to know the truth, that sets us free to know that God loves us, He forgives us, He's here to help us and heal us and give us hope. That's the God that we serve. And the more you get to know him, the more freedom you'll have. The more you pursue what's true, the more you'll understand what's true. The more you open this up and understand what it has to say through the people that wrote these letters, the more you'll understand the true God of the Bible, and that will help you live this life of truth. You have to understand that we often think about loving someone with our heart, but we want to get to know God. We need to use our minds to understand what's true about him, and that will help us to be closer to him. And if you ever feel trapped and like, I don't know, like God seems kind of confusing, you can find freedom as you keep going and growing in your faith. You shouldn't have it all figured out now in middle school. You have a lifetime left. I've been a Christian for about 25 years. I've been in ministry for 20 years, and I still continue to learn more and more every day. If you look at my Bibles, I've got notes and things that are highlighted and underlined. I have question marks as I try to get to know God better because I'm still learning more and more. Because learning about God is a way to connect with God. I want to be close to him. So let me give you two challenges, or a two-part challenge as we get ready to go into our small group today. The first one is this. Pick one area of your faith where you wish you knew more. So find a spot in your weekly and write this down. What's one area? Is it prayer? Is it Bible study? Is it knowing more about Jesus? Is it baptism? Is it communion? Is it offering? Is it doing service for others? Is it worship? What is it you wish you knew more about? Is it healing? Is it miracles? Is it demons being cast out? There are so many things. What's one, just one, that you wish you knew more about? And then what's the one step you can take this week to learn more about that area of your faith? Maybe it's reading in the study Bible. Maybe it's asking your parents or asking your small group leader. Maybe it's digging into a resource that helps you know more. Pick one area. There are a lot of areas. You have a lifetime to grow in this stuff. But what's one area you want to grow in this week? Maybe you use some extra time tomorrow with your day off and you learn more about God. Because remember, learning about God is a way to connect with God. And so as we get into small group today, here's the question. What's one question I have about God? What's one question? Not that we're going to solve it today, but that we can help you find that truth that will set you free.